Time is now 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the regularly scheduled Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. Have a roll call, please.
Roll call shows all councilors present.
Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Would all stand, please? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is Special Orders of the Day and Announcements. Item 3A, please. It's the Landmarks Commission Annual Preservation Activities Report 2011.
I'm sorry, I
That's
didn't
okay.
recognize my name is 3A.
That's okay. Let's start.
My name is Sandy Williams, and I'm a member of the Historic Landmarks Commission. And all of you have this little thing, and hopefully we'll go through it. Beloit Landmarks Commission is, this is the commission report. That's one of our favorite houses that was redone in this last year. Will that just go one? No? 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 Turn it on? That's another thing. Okay. Oh, that side. Ah, okay. Pardon me. This annual report is provided in accordance with Section 32.05, subsection 10 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. Section 32.5.05, subsection 10, requires the Landmarks Commission to report its activities to the City Council each year. Section 32-0.06, subsection 2 of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, any alteration, quote, any alteration of designated landmarks, landmark sites, or structures within a historic district shall first require a certificate of appropriateness, unquote. The commissioners are Chairman Rick McGrath, who I am not, Vice Chairman Sandra Williams, who I am, Lynette Johnson, Marjorie Fizell, Donna Johnson, Steve Vollmer, and City Councilor Charles Haynes. The Landmarks Commission met 6 times in 2011 and reviewed certificate of appropriateness applications. 34 COA applications were processed in 2011. 25 or 75% were approved by staff. COA requests were for additions, new construction, 4 of them, chimneys and tuck pointing, none, demolitions, none, fences and retaining walls, 2, garage repair and construction, 1. Continued. Gutters, fascia, and soffit, 2. Handrails and porches, none. Historic plaques, 1. Local landmark designations, none. Ramps, sidewalks, steps, pavement, 4. Roof repair and replacement, 13. Signs and miscellaneous items, 1. Siding, 1. Windows and doors, 5. In additional commission activities, we supported the historic preservation presentations during Beloit Heritage Days in September 2011. The Landmarks Commission currently monitors 115 properties in the Bluff Street District, 181 properties in the College Park District, 4 properties in the Merrill Street District, and 42 individually listed landmarks. Questions?
Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Councilor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Williams, I would just like to thank you and the Commission for all the hard work that you have done, specifically the efforts over the last many years to bring forward, in partnership with the city, with private investors and companies and others, to bring forth a great designation of Beloit being the only city selected by this old house for their old neighborhood or historic neighborhood preservation. So
Great.
thank you for your hard work.
You're
Brings
welcome.
great honor to our
Absolutely.
city and another great reason to live, work, and play in Beloit. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your presentation. I was wondering if you'd seen a trend in the applications that were denied, if there's reasons that you're seeing that they are. And then also, have you been successful in connecting homeowners to our neighborhood rehab loan program at all?
To answer the first one, the things that we have rejected have generally been the use of materials that are not consistent with the historic nature of the house. Now, that doesn't mean it has that. If it had wood siding, it has to have wood siding, but it has to have aluminum siding that looks like wood. So, I mean, there's that kind of thing. And the same thing with the plastic that they use for railings and that sort of thing. The deal is to have it look as much as possible like a historic district. Now I forgot the second question.
Well, it actually feeds right into that. It's because those materials are sometimes more expensive for homeowners to use to rehab. Have you been able to connect them with our city's rehab loan program?
I am not familiar with that.
Oh, well, we should make sure. that-
Maybe you should make.
Okay, I'm glad I asked.
Yes, because some of us are very interested in repairing wood windows rather than replacing them with aluminum windows. And again, the expense. And we try really hard to convince them, at least take a look. But I did not know that the city had one.
So we'll make sure we get you that information for
Now,
sure at
maybe-
the commission.
I'm
Great, thank
I the
you.
only one that didn't know? Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay.
Item 4 is public hearings. Item 4A, please.
A resolution amending the 2012 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan and Budget.
Mrs. Christensen, please.
In November of last year, the City Council approved the 2012 Community Development Block Grant budget. At that time, we estimated the 2012 grant would be $600,000. In January, we received notice from the Department of Housing and Urban Development that the amount we will receive is actually $487,765. Therefore, we must amend the budget and the action plan to account for this decrease. Essentially, if the decrease or increase is more than 10%, it's considered a substantial amendment under HUD standards, and we go through this whole public process again. So we did publish a notice in the Daily News, and there is a public hearing tonight. At the Community Development Authority meeting, when they acted on the 2012 budget, they balanced the budget by reducing public service by 9%, and this puts it exactly at the 15% cap, cutting planning and admin by $36,965, the city's code enforcement program by $34,625, and eliminating the funding for the Community Actions Marital Housing Initiative. I did talk to John Ramstad last week about how we could help out and what we could do. And what we are working on is trying to fund the Marital Housing Initiative with home funds. We do 15% of the funds under home go to a community housing development organization in Beloit. And at this point, NHS isn't spending their dollars down as quickly as we actually need to by the rules. So we are working to try to divide that amount between those two agencies because we do, as I think the CDA does and staff does, support that housing initiative. And then a notice was published after that meeting in the Beloit Daily News notifying the public of the 30-day public comment period. We did not receive any comments on that. Attached to the report is the amended budget, and this budget essentially allows us to keep the city programs in place. It allows us to keep our code enforcement program, our housing rehab program, without any kind of layoffs to staff. I mean, a good chunk of this budget does have some staff costs in it, and it also allows us to fund the public service programs to the greatest amount we could. And we're confident with that 15% cap because we know our program income amount, so I think we're safe going at that. We went as low as we could with the public service agencies.
Okay, thank you. And I will note for the record that Councilor DeForest had to step out because she has a conflict with this She's actually employed by one of the agencies, so that's the reason she stepped out, and we'll be bringing her back in when we finish discussion on this item. Item 4A is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to, I would like to open the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on item 4A and entertain a motion from council.
Move approval, Mr. Second President.
Motion by Van der Bogaert, second by Lukey. Council discussion. Councilor Spreitzer?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the efforts to find alternative funding for the Mayoral Housing Initiative. I think it's an important program and was disappointed that that had to be eliminated based on the federal cuts, and certainly appreciate the efforts to do that and hope you could keep us updated on how that plays out and if we're able to find that money. Also very disappointing that the federal government decided not to make community development block grants a priority this year and to cut our funding, which is why we're in this situation of having to make these cuts, and certainly hope we can remind those who represent us in Washington that we need to support these community programs.
Thank you. Councilor Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to agree with my fellow Councilor Spreitzer on all the comments that he's just made. First, I'd like to also appreciate Ms. Christensen, the CDA, city staff, and all the organizations that have worked really hard to make these cuts unfortunately have to happen because it's forced on us by the federal government. Government comes down to choices, whether it's the city, the county, the state, or the federal government. The federal government has made these choices. The only responsible thing that we can do is to find a way to implement these with the least amount of pain for so many people that are the most vulnerable in our community. I'll keep my comments brief. I'll just mention a couple of them. Several of these agencies in the public service sector are folks that do outreach for homeless folks, also people that are in immediate danger of being homeless. Recently, there was a movie made here in Beloit of a large teen epidemic of homelessness. You can say people should take responsibility for their own lives, but I would argue that in this case, these teens that are homeless are trying to do the right thing to get an education, to give themselves an opportunity to move forward in our society and be more productive members. One last example that I would give is there's a program in here that helps with if you need a home companion. So say that your spouse has a stroke or a heart attack or something terrible, you don't want and they may have to take, they may not have any choice. They may have to leave the hospital, and they either have the choice of staying at home or going into a nursing home, which is more, again, I would argue, more expensive to society, especially if they can't afford those things. And it's less supportive of the individual as well as the family. By having those programs, we give people an opportunity for a better quality of life and to be better participants in society and reduce expenses on society. I think that it's a terrible choice of the federal government. I wish that they would reconsider. They're forcing us to make these choices. I will be voting for it because it's the only responsible thing to do, but I think it's terribly irresponsible on the federal side. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilor comments or questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 6-0. If someone can get counsel there for us. Okay, because your light was still on. Item 5 is citizens' participation. We reached a point on the agenda where citizens may come forward and speak on items that's not on the agenda and also address some items that are on the agenda. I am going to ask that you limit your comments this evening to 3 minutes. I will not cut you off, but I will give you a reminder when you have 1 minute left. We have several people that would like to speak this evening. So as I give you that 1 minute reminder, I hope that no one will take it as we're being rude, but we have several people and we want to give everybody ample time to be heard. So I'll be reminding you that you would have 1 minute left, probably in the middle of your speech. So at that time, we'll open citizens' participation. We ask you to refrain from any personal attacks from any staff, council people, or anybody else in the audience. Direct all comments to the council. We will not act on these items, but we will refer them to the proper department to get back to you if you need additional information. And with that said, Deb Crockett, and we need your name and address for the records, please.
So we have a group. Is it okay if somebody else goes first?
Well, this is the first one that I have, Deb Crockett, so I'm going right off the list, and then if they filled out a form, they'll probably get to their name. And what I'll do is if you have a large group that's here, I will ask that the group does not be redundant and repeat
Right.
the same thing. So if someone else has said something that you said, I ask that, that you respect the time and respect other people and not get up and repeat the same thing. Thank
Got it.
you.
Okay. My name is Deb Crockett. I live at 1014 Emerson Street in Beloit, and I'm here with a group of people that's interested in, we're proposing a backyard chicken ordinance to make it okay for people to be able to have up to 4 hens in their yard. So I myself work at Angelic Organics Learning Center, which is an educational nonprofit about 10 miles from here in Illinois, and we do programs and classes on teaching people how to keep chickens. So what I'd like to do is to speak a little bit about what some of the realities are about chickens and address some of the concerns that people often have. So one concern that we hear frequently is about noise, and there are 2 kinds of chickens, boys and girls. The roosters are the ones that make a lot of noise, and what we're suggesting is that people be allowed to have up to 4 hens. They're much quieter. They're quieter than many songbirds. They're certainly quieter than a barking dog. Another concern is about manure. As long as there's adequate bedding underneath them, then there shouldn't be any odors. That manure can be composted and put into gardens and used on lawns as a natural kind of fertilizer. And in terms of the volume of the manure, if you again were to compare those 4 hens with a medium-sized dog, they'd make about 1/3 of the amount of manure. So it's less than the pet waste that it's around. Another concern is about disease and pests. So chickens that are in an outdoor environment, they're not crowded, and they have a diverse diet are much less likely to have disease. And things like salmonella that are on eggs that are produced commercially are much rarer on backyard chickens. As long as the chickens have good housing, there aren't concerns in terms of rodents or predators like raccoons being able to get to them. And there are lots of really good resources on the internet and through classes and things like that where people can learn how to build, or you can purchase an adequate chicken house. In terms of pests, chickens can actually help reduce pests in the city. So they are omnivores, so they will eat weed seeds, they'll eat insect pests, they'll eat snails and slugs and things like that as well. The other thing that they love to eat are food scraps. And so some other municipalities that allow chickens have shown...
You have 1 minute left.
Okay, great. They've shown that they're able to reduce some of the solid waste going into their landfills. So that's another benefit for the city. I've got a packet for you that has our ordinance that we're proposing. It also has lists some answers to questions about chickens, and it tells about 2 classes that we have coming up at the Learning Center. And if you want to learn more, you're welcome to come take a class on chickens. We've got one that's right near here, and then we've got another one in Chicago that's specifically on the urban environment. So I've got these packets to give to you, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nellie Crockett. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nellie Conover Crockett. I live at 1014 Emerson Street. I'm going to talk to you about some of the reasons why I would want chickens in my backyard. A lot of kids, they might have allergies, or their parents might have allergies, so they might not be able to have like regular pets like dogs and cats, but they may want like a sense of responsibility that they'll get with a pet. And I personally do not know anybody who's allergic to chickens. It would also make me feel better to know where the eggs I'm eating are coming from, because a lot of chickens are kept in bad environments, and they're not happy at all, and they're not, so I would just like to know that the hens who lay the eggs that I'm eating were happy. That brings me to the subject of the eggs. The eggs are also a lot better when they're coming from chickens that are in a healthy environment. They have more omega-3s and are lower in cholesterol. I'm going to hand out some hard-boiled eggs in a couple minutes, and what you'll notice is that when you're eating them is they have a much darker yolk, which is a sign of a healthy hen. And also, they may be a little bit harder to peel because they were laid fresh just a couple days ago. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kurt Henry.
Probably enough for you to get one.
I'll distribute them after the meeting.
Trying to find out. I'm Kurt Hendrick. I live at 740 Grant Street, and I feel a little bit like the Lorax because I speak for the chickens. I'm here on behalf of Beloit Backyard Chickens to encourage you to pass a backyard chicken ordinance, and would like to ask those who have come here tonight to encourage you to do that, also to stand so their presence can be recognized. My wife and I, some years ago, we were in college. Oh, you can sit down if you want to. I'm sorry. We went on a mission service trip to the Appalachian Mountains with a group from our college, Carthage, and then also a group from Fordham University in New York. And I remember one of the days we visited a farm. The students from Fordham, their eyes were like saucers. I remember them turning to us and saying, "Have you ever seen cows before?" I'm like, "Well, we're from Wisconsin." All right. But it just struck me that they, in all their lives, had never seen a cow because they lived in the city. And I remember reading about a woman during the farm crisis who had been asked about her feelings about the farm crisis and living in the city. She said, "Well, what do I care? I get my food from the grocery store." And one of the things we realize is that we've become disconnected from the land and the places that our food comes from, and it's we need to have that reconnection, to be able to be allowed to do that. And like this woman, we also need to realize that we can also sustain ourselves, like gardening, raising chickens are ways of raising your own food. And my friends from Fordham University, while they may not have cows in their backyards, they now have chickens in their backyards because New York is one of over 500 cities in the nation that allow backyard chickens. In fact, in our state right now, I know there are at least 23 cities, including Alouez, Altoona, Balsam Lake, Baraboo, Delafield, Ellsworth, Fort Atkinson, Green Bay, Jefferson, Kenosha, La Crosse, Madison, Medford, Milwaukee, Neenah, New Berlin, Onalaska, Oshkosh, Portage, River Hills, Shorewood Hills, Stoughton, and most recently the town of Beloit. And we'd love to see the city of Beloit on that list. In fact, we have a list here of signatures of people who have signed a petition, over 300 people who are asking for this to happen here, and also a nice little study done on 25 cities on how as city councils to look at an ordinance. The two things, thank you. The two things that lift up from this is that one of the things we found in asking people if they'd like to have chickens in Beloit is that for every one person who said no, we had about 60 people who said yes, which seems to us a very encouraging sign that this is an overwhelmingly favorable petition that people are looking forward to. Many may not want to have chickens in their backyard, but they're certainly asking us if they can have eggs when we do this. So I want to lift these up to you. The study, one of the things I'd really encourage you to look at is that it notes that after studying ordinances in 25 cities, what they found is that the question for city councils is not yes or no on an ordinance, but how to make it happen. That this can be done and recognize the needs of everyone in the community, and we think this is a great idea and would like to encourage you to pass this. So we thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Billy Bob Gran. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Billy Bob Gran. I'm at 152 South Locust in Janesville, Wisconsin. I'm here to make a couple of comments about the intergovernmental agreement that is being considered at the time. I was here 12 years ago when members of the Bad River came here the first night to explore the possibility of a casino. And I've been part of that adventure ever since day one. The reason I'm here tonight is just to make clear that a number of allegations that have been brought forth lately are not true. What I'm also asking is for the council to reconsider the intergovernmental agreement tonight and hold off for 30 days and have a sit down with the three tribes and members of the city council. I happen to be privy to one of these so-called negotiations a few years back, and it wasn't even close to what's being described. It was a very heated discussion. we want this, you're going to get that, and you ain't going to get this, and that was it. It was a very short, there was no negotiating. It was kind of almost a shouting match. The Bad River Reservation, the people of Bad River have been acting in good faith for 12 years. A lot of work has gone into this project. A lot of money has gone into this project. A lot of road bumps that we had to overcome as a result of another nation trying to derail this project, and held it up for several years.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. So once again, I am a member of the Bad River Reservation, and my given name is Magichiga, and I'm here to ask for a fair hearing before this thing goes ahead. We also have a issue of Carcier versus Salazar that needs to take a little bit deeper look that could actually hold this thing up for many years. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Frank Connors. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, City Council, members of the audience. Frank Connors, 71509 Dock Road. I live on the Bad River Reservation. I also sit on the Tribal Council for the Bad River Reservation. And I'm here today to represent both the Chippewa tribes. I guess kind of stand here in shock and awe over what I heard as being the intergovernmental agreement between the Chippewa, Rock County, and Beloit being discarded. There's been no communication with regards to that. Negotiations, I guess, that occurred between the Ho-Chunk and the Chippewa tribes. There was 2 negotiations. One proposal was submitted, one response was submitted, and that was the end of that. Like just over a month ago, the 2 Chippewa tribes and the President Greendeer got together. I'm going to estimate 6 weeks ago. Thought that was the beginning of the next negotiation stage. We followed up with that about a week later, requesting that we sit down again to continue negotiations. Never heard back from them. I was at a recent consultation between tribes and states and met with 2 of the Ho-Chunk and asked them what they thought of the letter, and they responded that they never got it or seen it. The letter was addressed to Mr. Greendeer. Don't know why they didn't get it, but I took it personally and emailed the legislators, and they advised me they were going to distribute it through their legislative group. And still haven't heard back on that. So there has been negotiations, hopeful negotiations, and like Billy Bob said, we'd like to sit down with both tribes, or both the Chippewa tribes, Ho-Chunk,
1 minute left,
City Council, and Rock County Board, and put everything on the table. And what we need to agree with first is that we will disagree, but let's continue on.
Okay.
Bad River, the Chippewa tribes did put together quite an effort, quite a lengthy effort, a lot of groundwork to get this project going. Would like to consider 30-day hold so we could all sit down and discuss if there is a future.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Rick Brunton.
Rick Brunton, 751 Euclid Avenue. President Levy, members of the Beloit City Council, City Manager Arf. I too am going to ask this council to put this matter on the table, but for a different reason. Simply put, the Ho-Chunk Nation lacks the legal authority with the state of Wisconsin to place a gaming facility anywhere in Rock County. It also lacks the legal authority on the federal level to put land into trust anywhere in the United States. I'll give you part and parcel of agreements that are already in place. This is from the compact agreement currently in force between the Ho-Chunk Nation and the state of Wisconsin. This is the second amendment. Section 16 of the compact is amended by adding the following subsection. E, location of gaming facilities, except as otherwise provided for in this compact, unless the state by an amendment to this compact consents to additional locations. The Class 3 games authorized under this compact may be conducted with one gaming facility located in each of the following counties: Jackson, Sauk, Wood, and Dane. In addition, the nation may conduct any of the Class 3 games authorized under this compact at 5 ancillary locations, 2 of which are located in Jackson County, and 1 of which is located in each of the following counties: Sauk, Monroe, and Shawano. Until this nation can redo its compact, it has no legal authority with the state of Wisconsin under its current agreement to place a facility anywhere in Rock County. That's the lesser of their problems. As for the federal level, as Mr. Grant had just mentioned, the Secretary of the Interior has no authority to place land in trust for Indian tribes unless the tribes were federally recognized in 1934, according to a U.S. Supreme Court decision decided in 2009, Concieri versus Salazar, by an 8-1 decision. At issue in the case was the Indian Reorganization Act, enacted in June of 1934, which authorizes the Secretary to take land into trust for members of tribes that are, quote, now under federal jurisdiction. The Ho-Chunk Nation of Wisconsin was not federally recognized until 1963.
1 minute left.
The Supreme Court concluded that permitting the Secretary to place land into trust for tribes not federally recognized in 1934 would be contrary to the plain language of the statute, because it would substitute, quote, now or hereafter for the word now. So until they can gather an act of Congress that overturns the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, this tribe lacks, by decision of the United States Supreme Court 3 years ago, the authority to place land into trust anywhere in the United States. I urge this council to table this until the tribes can get their house in order before you enter into a binding agreement and get drug along for the ride on this one. That's my recommendation to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Hilbig.
Don Hilbig, 1128 Partridge Avenue, City of Beloit. Good evening, Council,
Good evening.
City Manager, City Attorney. I have 2 issues tonight. The first regarding the casino. I won't repeat my previous comments outlining the pitfalls and objections to that questionable project. But we'll state to the council that you have 2 choices for a vision for our city. The one goal includes gambling and attending problems and vices, the image and reputation of a little Vegas. The second vision is a more family wholesome and virtuous choice of a college town, or a baseball town, a corporate town, a Riverfest town, an all-American city. It's your choice. I recommend you use wisdom and vision in your decision. The second issue is one of fiscal responsibility regarding the city budget. Do not now renege on those decisions by spending other taxpayer monies. I refer to the police and/or fire department requests for spending federal grant monies. If this is a, quote, must-have, unquote, educational item, then let them utilize our own county mental health resources. But we do not need more fluff in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes all the forms that I have. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under citizens' participation this evening? Mike. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Mike Sorrell, 1756 Carlisle. As a candidate run for Beloit City Council, one of the questions that came up at our previous forum was that, is it a good idea that our city budget is 2/3 dependent upon the state for that shared revenue? One of my concerns about this IGA going forward is that we're actually now not only going to be 2/3 dependent upon the state for our revenue, but now we're also going to be dependent upon gaming profits at the casino. And so all I have to say on that is, in terms of looking at that net win payment, I think the city's in a strong negotiation position. And there should just be something in there that says we want some sort of minimum guaranteed payment. The problem that we have is that we're putting taxpayers at risk if the cost of providing health insurance for our police officers goes up faster than what the gaming revenues are. So if you have two lines, one's increasing at a steeper rate, eventually you're going to run into a situation where it's not financially sustainable. So I'd like to ask you to potentially go back to the drawing board and see if you can kind of tweak that a little bit before moving forward with this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Krista Voicest. I live at 1300 Bushnell Street, Beloit, Wisconsin. And I would like to say that I would like to ask all of you to look at your conscience about this situation. My family lived near Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I have to tell you that the destruction that the casinos brought to that part of the state was horrible. Prostitution, drug addiction. My sister is a nurse in a psychiatric place in Atlantic City. All of it has to do with drug addiction and prostitution. She's explained to me that there are people that get themselves addicted to go in and get the girls that are trying to get cleaned up. And this was not the case with Atlantic City before the casinos. It was a poor city, poorer than the others, but it was not in that any way that destructive condition. I don't think, I'm learning about politics, and I think that everyone needs to pay attention to their core beliefs and vote accordingly and think about what's happening here in Beloit. It's improving. It's getting better. I've lived here 15 years. My husband is a professor at the college. It is getting better every day, and I see that, and I really would urge you, please, follow your conscience, your inner being, and don't just go for the votes for whatever or for the money. The money will be here. We are attracting more and more good things in this city. So please, let's bless this city that it would go forward in a really good way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak under citizens' participation? Seeing none, I would like to close that portion of the agenda and move to item 6, which is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Is there any councilor like anything removed from the consent agenda? Councilor DeForest?
I'd like to request item B as in boy removed, please.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, the consent agenda will consist of items 6A and then 6C through 6G. Can I get an approval for that? Motion by Noonan. Is there a second? Second. Second by Haynes to approve that portion of the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that portion is approved. Item 6B, please.
Construction of improvements within Riverside Park at 1160 Riverside Drive and Wooten Park at 1451 4th Street.
Councilor DeForest, did you want a presentation or do you have a specific question?
I see that this is being referred to the plan, but I would like to request that when it comes back to us that we receive more details about the memorial that's planned at Wooten Park. I was under the understanding that the bridge would be honoring Mr. Ken Hendricks with a sign, but now it sounds like from the description here that there will be a stone seat wall. It looks like a more extensive memorial, and I'd like to know more about the details of that. That hasn't been included in our packet. and I'd like to know the approximate cost and who's paying for it.
We'll bring that back to you, no problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Councilor Spreitzer.
Echoing Councilor DeForest's comments, I'd like to see additional detail about the entire proposal when it comes back to us. I understand this is a narrow piece of it, but as much information as you can bring. I know it's been subject of some discussion so far.
Okay. Any other council comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Motion by Lukey, second by DeForest. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, 6B passes 7-0. Item 7 is ordinances. Item 7A, please.
A proposed ordinance to amend Section 1.13 Sub 24 to create Section 1.13 Sub 25 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to city electoral ward boundaries, and to amend Sections 1.14 Sub 1 and Sub 2 of the Code of General Ordinances pertaining to polling places. Okay.
Back up. I'm sorry, buddy.
The 2011 Wisconsin Act 44 actually created a problem with our new redistricting. A very small portion of the city of Beloit is now in the 1st Congressional District, whereas in the past the entire city has been in the 2nd Congressional District. As you can see on the map on the left that's marked proposed, Ward 25, you can barely even see it down at the bottom, at the very bottom. That's the piece that's in the 1st Congressional District. So it's just that little, nope, just Ward 25, just that little tiny piece. It's just the public right-of-way. There's no private property in it. There's just 4 census blocks, and it's all public right-of-way. So we thought initially that that was a mistake when the legislature was redistricting, and turns out it was not something that they would be changing. So in reaction to that, we will have to change and add this additional Ward 25 to accommodate the reporting requirements of the state and federal government, which require us to report election results for state and federal elections by congressional district. So this will not impact any of the voter of the cards indicating people's new polling places, because there's no electors in this Ward 25. So all of those postcards that went out in February are all accurate. This ordinance wouldn't take effect until after the April election, so it will not impact any voting in April. And I guess I'll answer any questions that you may have about this.
Can I get a motion to get it on the floor first, please? Motion by Haynes, second by Spreitzer. Councilor
I think we got to suspend the rules and then.
Motion to suspend the rules.
I'll amend my motion.
Okay. Now can I get a motion to suspend the rules? Okay. All right. Councilor DeForest.
Rebecca, have you had a chance to communicate to our WISE officials at higher levels of the of the inconvenience of their poor thinking? I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to say this.
Yes, I've been in contact with our legislators. I've been in contact with the Government Accountability Board and the Legislative Reference Bureau, and this is something that, because of the situation, we're forced to do. And I did, this is not the first time we've changed our ward map, so I did mention that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad that you've at least made sure they were aware of what kind of inconvenience they've caused and costs involved. So thank you.
Councilor Vander Bogart.
That was one of my questions as well, Ms. Hausman. Isn't this the second time we've done this? I seem to remember the sliver going down with no electors in it before.
Right. It was part of Ward 24 before. We've made several changes to our ward map since it was approved in, I believe, July of last year. Once was in October, and that was based on the rest of Act 44. So we had to change several of our districts. This wasn't changed with that change, but in 2011 because we thought that it was a mistake that would be corrected, because the city of Beloit has always been in the second congressional district, and we were under the understanding that it would remain so.
Thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Well, I'll be less diplomatic than Councilor DeForest. I think this is the last in a long list of indictments of the entire process that Madison used in redistricting this year, and it's unfortunate that you've had to do the work again, and for all we know, we may yet be back because there's a court case pending that could change things again. But I think clearly we've seen that what happens when you rush this process and do it in a partisan fashion in Madison, and I hope that lessons will be learned the next time we come around in a decade and not repeat this debacle. Thanks for your work.
Councilor Lupke.
Councilman Spreitzer said what I was going to say, and that is this is very political, and it could happen again. It depends on the party in power. But we hope, I think all of us hope, that reason and logic takes over in Madison, and what is done for the people is what is best. But unfortunately, politics reared its ugly head here again, and this is why we have this mess that you have to try to straighten out. So thank you.
Councilor Nuno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Councilor Spreitzer and Councilor Lupke for their comments. I agree as well as some other comments. Beloit is a city that's been coming together and moving forward, and once again now they're dividing us. We now have we're divided between, thanks to Madison, we're divided on the east and west side of the city, where before we were under one, and now we have two congressional districts. It's illogical. It's unfortunate that they're trying to split our city apart. We won't be. We're a very positive and tight-knit community, and we're very proud of our city. And I wish that they would reconsider, and I hope that the legislation changes at some point. But certainly, Ms. Hausman, thank you so much. You have worked so hard and tirelessly on this, and certainly your efforts and others are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 7-0. Now to the merits. Motion by DeForest, second by Haynes. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing, passes 6-1. Thank you. Item 7B, please.
A proposed ordinance to amend Section 1.82 sub 7 sub A and sub B of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to meetings of the Equal Opportunities and Human Relations Commission.
Ms. Christensen, please.
In January, the Equal Opportunities and Human Relations Commission recommended changing their regular meeting schedule from each month to each even-numbered month. Rather than having us just cancel meetings as when we don't have items, they've decided that it would be better just to have a consistent schedule. This is a board who does fair housing enforcement. They don't always have regular agenda items. We can pull a special meeting together if we have to. But in my experience, that canceling meetings frequently means that people don't plan on that meeting time anymore, and then it's harder to get people together. So the thought was you have a consistent schedule, and then we won't have, won't have a difficult time pulling it together. Last year, we did only have 4 regular meetings and 3 workshops. So 6 times a year, we definitely think is doable. And then the other change that was made in the ordinance said they met in the city manager's conference room, and they actually meet down here. So that's been crossed out because they meet in the forum when they meet.
Okay. There is a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a motion?
There needs to be. Thank you.
Motion by Spreitzer, second by Lukey. All those in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Now to the merits. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Moved by Van der Bogart, second by Haynes. Before we do that, I have a question. I believe last year around April, we had like a fair housing presentation. Do you plan on doing that again this year? This will be not a month that we have for a lot on the agenda.
We just completed the analysis of impediments to fair housing, and what Councilor Spreitzer had suggested is that we bring it and present that to council. So what we like to do is present that the first meeting in April, and I did put it on the schedule to do that, to present that as part of Fair Housing Month along with the proclamation.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 8 is appointments. There are none. Item 9, council activities and upcoming events. Councilor Spreitzer.
Thank you. I wanted to note the large group that came in support of the backyard chicken ordinance and ask that that be looked into by staff and placed on a future agenda as soon as possible for our consideration.
Councilor Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to acknowledge everyone that's here this evening. We don't always get such a great crowd, and what's so exciting about this one is that it's so diverse, so many different issues that are being brought forward. This is your city, it's your government, and your voice matters. So I'm just really thrilled that so many people came out here to show their support or opposition to different issues. So good for you, and come back and visit us more often. That'd be nice. Thanks.
Councilor Lupke.
A few weeks ago, I was able to represent the council with assistant to the city manager, Beth Jacobson, at the Latino Service Providers Coalition. A meeting was held at the M&I Bank, second floor. There'll be a meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, if anybody would like to go. That's, again, providing service to the Latino community in Beloit. Secondly, I want to applaud our high school students for being here, not falling asleep tonight, staying awake and taking good notes for their test tomorrow. And anybody who did not get their papers signed, we'll get them after the meeting. Thank you.
That's about midnight tonight, right?
We'll be done by midnight, at 11:30 maybe, if you're good.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say that I enjoyed seeing a large community gathering at Whitmore High School for the Empty Bowl activity to raise funds to support preventing hunger in our community. And I am looking forward as well to the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting and talking with our community's business owners about how they're faring. I don't want to steal Chief Liggett's comments, but I would like to acknowledge Jameson Campmeyer, a firefighter in Abbotsford, Wisconsin, who died in the line of duty just recently while fighting a fire where the building collapsed on him. And I feel this is especially poignant to recognize because of our efforts to try to work together to get to minimum manning staffing for our fire department and paramedics. So I would just like to acknowledge his loss and the great sacrifice that our public servants do provide, and sometimes at the expense of their lives. So thank you.
Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to remind everyone before this body meets again that in this room on the 15th, the Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters will be having their forum. I would like to invite everyone to either attend or to watch it on television. And I'd like to echo Councilor Spreitzer's mentioning of the issue with the backyard chickens. I think that's something that definitely deserves to be discussed, and since it's getting a broader support within the community. Thank you very much.
Councilor Rainer Bogart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Along with Councilor Lupke, City Manager Arft, and Assistant to the Manager, Ms. Jacobson, I had a chance to attend the Hometown Heroes Lunch at the Angel Museum back on the 24th of February, honoring Ralph Berkeley, Janet Elzey, J.B. Elzey, Bob Gilliam, Ladine Lockhart, John Peterson, and Eugene Relaford. In addition, I was able to attend the Beloit Historical Society meeting that evening, a Welty Environmental Center meeting the next evening, and along with Councilor DeForest and spouse and grandson went to the Empty Bowl for Caritas fundraiser at the high school on the 25th. And for those of you who for years perhaps have been after me, telling me to go jump in the lake, I did in fact do that yesterday at Lake Story in Galesburg, Illinois, a polar plunge for Special Olympics. It was 27 degrees and snowing, and I did go all the way under. So.
I am not even gonna. I'm going to start this way next time and end with day. I'm not going to follow that. I have no comments. City Manager's presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. Andrew Yonke is going to present to the council this evening an update on various economic activities, including some of the marketing initiatives that are currently underway to do our very best to increase jobs and economic development opportunities for the community. Andrew?
Yes, thank you, City Manager. Please bear with me one moment while I transition here. Good evening. Again, my name is Andrew Yankee. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Beloit. I also serve as the Executive Director for the Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation. At your meeting on the 20th of February, the City Manager gave you an update on the community, and he talked about a number of these particular individual companies that are either locating in Beloit or expanding in Beloit. I'm not going to talk about those because the City Manager did a very good job in covering that ground at the meeting on the 20th. But to give you a quick recap, the activity that took place in 2011, we had 14 major projects that once completed will create 491 new jobs. Total investment in those projects added up to over $334 million and added 291,000 square feet to our inventory. However, since then, we've had a number of recent announcements. Universal AET is a company that engineers and manufactures acoustic silencers, and they do emissions and filtration technologies. This particular company is leasing space in the Ironworks complex. They're leasing 20,000 square feet. They're going to create 12 jobs, possibly up to 15 jobs when they're completely up and running. Also, since the 20th, Fat Wallet has extended their lease on their downtown facility by 1 additional year. We also met with that particular company a couple weeks ago. They are considering options to do a longer-term lease or possibly even buying the building from the City of Beloit. The Hampton Inn project, the project that's been under construction and then off construction for the last 2 years, is back under construction. The Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation helped support that project by providing a loan in the amount of $200,000, and that's funded through CDBG funds. The developers have also been able to obtain permanent financing, and they intend to have the project finished by June of this year. Another project that was announced recently, Frito-Lay is doing a fleet sustainability project. Essentially what they're going to do is they're going to purchase 50 tractors, and they will run on compressed natural gas or CNG. And one of the reasons why they're able to do this is their property borders the A&R high-pressure natural gas line. They'll tap right into that, and they will establish a filling station to fuel these new trucks. This will result in a net decrease in their fuel costs, and CNG is much cleaner than traditional diesel fuel. The project will position the Beloit plant to be more competitive against its sisters. They hope to have this facility up and running by September of this year. The other project we want to talk about is our Business Retention and Expansion Program, or BRE, as we call it. We launched this program countywide back in the spring of 2010. By the end of this year, we had conducted 101 interviews with these companies, and that was our goal, to complete 100 interviews. We thought we'd have enough data then to produce a final report. That report has been finished, and it's going to be released to the participants in the process as well as the media on an event that we have planned for the 29th of this month. This chart kind of shows you where the activity took place. Most of the activity, of course, was in the county's larger cities, Beloit and Janesville. 37% of the interviews were in Beloit companies and 29% in Janesville companies. Just because we did this initial report doesn't mean that this project doesn't keep going. It will keep going. It's basically we'll try to do 100, another 100, and then go back and survey those initial companies. But to give you just kind of a quick snapshot of some of our findings, we asked them what they thought the capacity of their particular industries were, and 34% said that they thought they were under capacity, 44% thought they were balanced, and 22% thought that they were over capacity. We asked them if they had any plans for expansions, and 60% of the companies that we interviewed indicated that yes, they had plans to expand in the future. When we asked them about their market share, 55% said that they were increasing their market share, 39% said it was stable, and 6% said it was decreasing. There were barriers identified, though, for doing expansions. 57% identified business climate and economic considerations as a primary barrier. Other issues are real estate, perhaps they're landlocked. 22% said workforce issues, and 4% were other. Some of the other marketing activities that we're working on, we feel that our primary resource for marketing is our website. And our website is www.greaterbeloitworks.com. I encourage you to check that out. The Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation has hired WSI, which is an internet consultant, to do a comprehensive search engine optimization project for us. We're going to work with that company to identify keywords and phrases that are used by site selectors, brokers, and companies looking to locate in the Upper Midwest. Our goal here is to have these words result in our website showing up on the first page when a search is conducted using those keywords and phrases. Wanted to give you a quick update on our certified shovel-ready sites. There are only 2 certified sites in the state of Wisconsin. That's Beloit's Gateway Business Park, as well as the site in Janesville. Recently, I should mention that Edgerton is also gearing up to have one of their parks certified shovel-ready. Last month, Governor Walker announced that the state is going to have a certified sites project, which they're going to call Ready, Set, Build. The GBEDC and the city partnered this last summer to update the Gateway Monument sign, and we used this opportunity to upscale the sign and to include a message that the fact that the park is certified shovel-ready. And most recently, within the last couple of weeks, we got a request for proposal from a company. Basically, it's an international food processing company that we're looking exclusively at shovel-ready sites. So the only 2 sites in the state of Wisconsin that were submitted were the Beloit site and the Janesville site. So this investment is starting to pay off for us. We have put together a series of promotional videos. If we have a couple minutes here at the end, I might show you one. We have put together brochures and videos for several of our targets, including real estate and investment, food processing, logistics, and one will be released later this month, which is promoting the Southern Wisconsin Regional Airport. We just finished up putting together our virtual buildings portfolio. We worked with Angus Young and Associates to design 6 virtual buildings. And these are located on our websites. They range from 59,000 square feet up to 720 square feet. And the information that we have for these buildings includes a building perspective, and a perspective that includes an animated fly-around. There are production floor plans, office floor plans, site plans that also illustrate potential for future expansions, building profiles, and Larry, there's a handout there, if you could just, at the very end, if you just hand that down, please. This is one of the profiles for a 59,000 square foot building. We've basically designed 2 types of building. One is a steel frame building and the other is a masonry building, because in Gateway, masonry buildings are required. And that's the profile for a 59,000 square foot building of a masonry style construction. Other marketing initiatives that we've been involved with in partnering with Rock County and the Rock County 5.0, we have, again, we've mailed out several thousand of those promotional brochures. We have done some advertising in Chicago Industrial Properties and Midwest Real Estate News, basically doing banner ads in their websites. We've attended trade shows. We intend to attend other trade shows this year. Attendance at real estate trade shows. I'm going to be going to ICSC later this week in Chicago. And we continue to participate in the I-39 Logistics Association. Marketing activities that we currently have under development. Rock County 5.0 is looking to hire a consultant to develop a comprehensive marketing strategy that focuses on our ability to be quick and nimble when working with economic development projects. This is a 3 to 5 year campaign as we envision it. We're trying to increase awareness about Rock County and its opportunities and its value proposition. We want to enhance and maximize the positive PR that's out there. And we want to reach and leverage our targeted audience, those being site selectors, companies, and commercial brokers. And we're also contemplating doing some significant billboard placement in the Chicagoland area. The other project that we currently have under development is our web-based online business cost calculator. When we work with prospects, they often ask us questions of what is the cost to do business in your community or in your county. So we've teamed up with the accounting firm of Baker Tilly, and they're developing the platform for us. And the goal is to create an interactive platform where a prospect could compute the actual cost of doing business in Rock County. And some of the cost centers that we're going to be modeling include wage costs, tax costs, transportation costs, and real estate costs. Some other notable economic development activities we wanted you just to be aware of. The Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation Business Education Partnership Committee is producing a student financial literacy program. It's called Reality Store. It's essentially the game of life. These students will be taking part of this program tomorrow morning through the afternoon. We're going to have about 464 students involved in that process, and 30-plus businesses will be participating as well. The GBEDC has contributed to support the Connections Initiative. The city is involved in this process, and the city of South Beloit is also involved. And again, this is creating the connections between the city of Beloit and the city of South Beloit. I just wanted to mention that I was recently elected to the board of directors for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for a second term, and wanted to mention that our request for proposal pipeline is improving in quality and quantity, particularly in the last quarter or so. And we also wanted to offer you a quick update on our revolving loan fund. We have a loan portfolio of 6 loans. We have lent out $376,000. One of our loans is delinquent. That's Beloit Country Market. However, we're currently under litigation. We intend to try to collect on that loan fully. And again, I mentioned we have that pending loan for Beloit Hotel Group, which is the Hampton Inn, in the amount of $200,000. So assuming we close on that loan, our funds available to lend out is $47,444. So if you have 8 minutes, I could show you a video. You want? Okay.
Watching the video and play some questions.
Are you looking for space to meet your company's real estate needs? Whether seeking to consolidate or expand your operations, look no further than Rock County, Wisconsin. As the anchor of the I-39, I-90, and I-43 development corridor, the Janesville-Beloit Metropolitan Statistical Area possesses a diversified and cost-competitive real estate market to meet today's as well as tomorrow's needs. Interstate access and exposure, rail service, compatible land use, and modern utilities, including the potential to leverage redundant power, are standard offerings throughout the county, regardless of whether aligned with advanced manufacturing, logistics, or clean tech. Rock County has the footprint to meet your investment needs.
Our specific interest is really into investments, management and development of real estate, mostly into industrial and retail, and then urban redevelopment. ABC is our tenant. They're our largest tenant. They were really the catalyst to what we are now. We're about 15.2 million square feet. We're in about 43 states total. We're about 8 million here in the Midwest region. We do have a pretty diverse portfolio, some of which are sister companies of Diane Hendricks ownership, to aluminum extrusion plants, to ST&E, Blackhawk Transport, URT, the recycling company. We're working with new tenants that are in medical products, manufacturing. We look at stuff that many of our competitors would never even look at. By doing a lot of these rebrandings, they may be obsolete when you get them, but you're rebranding them and now they are definitely viable for a long, long time to come. And the one thing I always say about Rock County is that the people here are genuine, they're open, and they're hungry. They want to see business grow.
Initially, CCI was just a company that was formed as a part of ABC, initially as the rollout. And as Ken started the ABC program and needed new sites, he decided to bring an in-house construction group, which were basically employees of ABC, to build out the stores. And then over the space of 22 years of doing business, CCI has become an independent contractor with outside relationships and doing clients pretty much for everybody. Well, we do work nationwide, and as a result of that, we've established relationships, certainly with the marketplace. We've done a lot of projects for local businesses in Wisconsin. We're currently pursuing a lot of work in the East Coast, a lot in the southeast region of the United States, Texas, and in Missouri. Because we've grown up as a wholly owned entity working for ourselves, we kind of have an ability to think like an owner. We actually are always thinking, what do they need for space? What do they need to make for financial decisions? What's the feasibility and the reuse of the building? You know, we've grown up doing renovations. We've done tough reuse projects of old industrial buildings, and that's how we cut our teeth. And so we bring a pretty deep resume of experience there. It's been built and it's been abandoned and it's been nearly ruined. We probably renovated it and turned it into good space. Rock County is really great. There's been, not only are they good to work with, but also they're very forward-thinking in that there's been a lot of infrastructure and preparation made in this area to say, hey, look at the resource we have available for you. Move into our community and what we have in the way of real estate, services, utility availability, skilled workforce, all of that is here. And so it's easy for us to build in that kind of environment.
If a customized built-to-suit solution is required, then consider siting your project on Wisconsin's first and only officially designated shovel-ready sites. With the majority of the business or industrial parks owned by local units of government or collaborative public-private arrangements, developer of choice is the norm, not the exception. Flexible lot sizes and configurations, ample acreage, right-sized infrastructure, and tax increment financing benefits characterize Rock County's available sites inventory.
Helgeson Development Corp. is the operational construction management of the company. It's really the heart and soul of it. It is family-owned and family-controlled. My father started the business in 1949. We have 2.3 million square feet. We are located primarily in Wisconsin, Illinois. We have built throughout the United States. We've built in Europe. We've built in the East, North Carolina, Indiana, Idaho. We have a book of approximately 30 tenants. The Helgeson difference is pretty clear. Instead of dealing with a team of 5 or 7 in a committee, they deal with one person, me. The way I build it is if it's my house. Therefore, they know that I'm personally invested into the project. When we move in with the best crews that we possibly can have, people that have worked for us for 20-some years, they know that when we move into a project, what to expect from us. Unlike a lot of other communities, there's only a few others, I would say, out of all of them in the Midwest that are as cooperative as Janesville. They streamlined it better than any of the other communities that we are presently working with. So it is a very productive investment for us now to do it in Janesville, which I'm very happy for because it's my hometown.
J.P. Cullen & Sons' home headquarters has always been here in Janesville, Wisconsin. The company was started in 1892 by my great-grandfather, John Patrick Cullen. His crowning achievement was the start of Samson Tractor, which became General Motors. Over the years, while General Motors was there, every one of our generations have been back and done additions and renovations there. We still do a lot of industrial work around this area, food processing clients, healthcare. Education has been a big market for us, K through 12, and also the UW system as well. And probably our biggest market right now in terms of the volume is actually building office space and auditorium facilities. And then we've also been fortunate to work for the state of Wisconsin. Within our industry, we have won 4 partnering awards. J.P. Cullen is the only general contractor in the state of Wisconsin that has received 4 of them. We try to look for industrial projects that are more complicated and complex. We think we can work well into the types of needs and requirements that they have, but also quite often they need to keep their production lines active, and so a lot of that work turns out to become off-hours type of work. And not all of our competition likes to do that. We always find our best projects are right here closest to home. The reasons for that, we think, are just the work ethic of the people, and you just can't compare the level of quality and work ethic that you find here in the state of Wisconsin and the employees that we have.
If timing is an issue, no need to worry. With Rock County's virtual build-to-suit portfolio, end users can literally customize their footprints online. Choose from up to 6 different architecturally accurate building plans, ranging in square footage from 59,000 square feet to over 700,000 square feet. Complete with corresponding site plans, floor plans, color renderings, and cost estimates, Rock County's virtual build-to-suit portfolio provides a value-added due diligence tool. Coupled with the county's shovel-ready parks, these offerings create unparalleled speed-to-market advantages. Before signing off on letter of intent or actual lease and/or sale document, check out Rock County's property inventory and its competitive price point at rockcountyalliance.com.
So there you go.
Thank you. Councilors, questions? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I have many questions. Thank you, Andrew. First of all, I'm wondering if you could send us electronically your PowerPoint so we could have that at some point. And then
I have hard copies on the wall there as well.
Okay, thank you. For the Hampton Inn, didn't we provide a loan to them through CDBG last year?
Yes, and we rescinded it because it took so much
Okay.
time, so it went to the loan committee twice.
Got it. Okay. And then I wanted to ask about the BRE, the business retention. What is the size of businesses that we interviewed?
The Synchronous Prime, which is a software that we use to build the database, is geared towards medium-sized to larger manufacturers, logistic types companies, and wholesalers. So it's not geared towards the smaller mom and pop stores. We do have access to some software, same family, same company. It's called CRTS, and we've provided that to both the Chamber and the DBA, and eventually I think they intend to use that particular software to go out and do their own interviews of smaller companies.
Okay, so the plan is that the DBA
Chamber.
and the Chamber will look at small business. By medium size, are we talking 100 plus employees?
It's more use than it is the number of employees. For instance, the small company today, Nor's Pattern Shop, I think they have 10, 15 employees, but they're a manufacturer. So they would fit into the category of kind of company that we would visit for our formal BRE program.
Okay. Will you be looking to support the Chamber and the DBA to move on that small business retention effort as well? Because I'm just as concerned about small businesses as I am about medium.
We've agreed to manage the database, but they have to get their volunteers and their staff out there to actually conduct the interviews.
Okay. In terms of the cost calculator, since one of the marketing niches that we're trying to promote in this area is food processing, will that cost calculator include water costs? Because that, I think, would put us at a definite advantage over other communities. And food processors tend to use a lot of water.
Yeah, I don't think I had it up there, but certainly utility costs is one of the modules.
Okay.
That will include electricity, gas, water.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then I'm trying to think how to say this. I'm not very diplomatic always. My sense of the video, just from watching it, it felt more like it promoted the individual businesses highlighted than it promoted Rock County as a location. And I don't know, is this the only video that you're using that's in your arsenal? I don't know if it's just me, but it felt like it was highlighting some wonderful businesses that we do have and promoting business for them. It felt more like an ad for them than an ad for us. And so I'm just trying to get a sense of, I hope there's other videos that we're using besides this one.
Oh, absolutely. We have a video for food processing and a video for logistics. And as I mentioned, the video for the Rock County Regional Airport will be released later this month.
But do we have a general one that just focuses on, I mean, there was a reference in the very beginning, the first like 30 seconds and the very end about the advantages of our particular strategic location in terms of, you know, the interfaces of the interstates, you know, I mean, some of the advantages of locating here, and I felt like that got lost because the video was all about these different businesses promoting themselves. So I don't know if that's just me and my take on it. I guess we could talk about that later. Maybe I'm alone and I'm crazy. But that was my initial feel.
And I would encourage you to visit the website, check out the other ones. And if you still feel that theme is in there, let me know. And I'll take that back to the planners and we can make adjustments as appropriate.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilor Spreitzer?
Thank you for the presentation and the work that you're doing. I was wondering, the statistic in that one graph about workforce as a barrier to expansion, can you talk any more about what themes came up in terms of that?
If I recall, we identified that skill gap that you're hearing so much about. You can drive around Beloit and you can see companies are advertising for positions. There's jobs available, but finding people that have the skills that line up with what the companies need has been a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge.
Thank you.
Councilor Lupke?
I want to thank you for your nomination to that board, the Beloit, or the Wisconsin Economic Development Association. I want to thank you for all the hard work. And I, too, have heard from employers that we're not getting the skills taught to a lot of these kids, whether it's in school or whatever. They're coming to these jobs unskilled or without the skills necessary for the demands. So hopefully we can correct a lot of that at the local level in our schools and better gear our students to have these skills so they can be employed here and stay in Beloit.
Correct.
Thank you.
Have we shared that information? Have we had a talk with the superintendent or with the schools just to let them know what you're running into out there? I'm sure you have, but, and even with Black Hawk Tech, because I know that's a place where they could go, where they can get additional skills as well. And I think it would behoove us that if we know what employers are looking for, that we kind of gear the educational system that we have here to be ready and to meet those needs.
The school superintendent, president of Beloit, or president of Black Hawk Technical College, both serve on our business educational partnership program. So they communicate, and we communicate our issues to them as well.
Okay. Councilor Noodle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very glad that several things were brought up, especially education. That was something that I thought was a key component. We've heard that issue for really 10 years. It was before this drop in the economy, and hopefully now rebound, hopefully coming sooner than later. I thought it was really interesting that there was such a large percentage of businesses that identified that they were concerned about the business climate. I was wondering if you could share with us if they felt that was locally or higher up.
I want to say, and I don't have all the data, the raw data in front of me, that it was more state-related and might even have to do with some of the angst that we've lived through the last year. Whatever side you happen to be on that issue, it's created an uncomforting dynamic out there. And there have been some challenges with the state's reputation as being a high-tax state and over-regulated state. So I think that's what you're mostly seeing there in that data.
Okay. I certainly would not speak for my fellow counselors, but we want them here. We're friendly. We understand that we want them to move here and build here. We want the current ones to expand here. We understand if they're successful, that the other citizens in our community have jobs, and everybody wins. And so you can tell, at least for me, I'm sure many of the other counselors, we want to see them here. They're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Councilor Vander Bogart.
Within the last couple of weeks, the city of Janesville council voted to spend $25,000 to hire a part-time consultant. Among the duties the person is supposed to have is marketing at trade shows, the city of Janesville in South America. How does that bode, or does that fit into this cooperative and collaborative concept that 5.0 has been pushing and others have been pushing?
Quite frankly, that announcement came to a shock to many of us that have been collaborating. I think the City of Janesville is rethinking their approach. I think they're going to come back to Rock County 5.0 and take a look at that being, again, at a regional approach and having been at least partially funded by Rock County 5.0. I don't know if that addresses your question, but it came as a bit of a surprise to me.
Well, me too. I thought, we were all under one happy tent, and guess not.
Yeah. Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on some questions that were raised by my fellow councilors. I brought up concerns about how we can support workforce training before, and I'm excited about CETA and that we're making strides in that regard of connecting high school students with specific training skills that have high demand fields, work fields. I'm wondering, are you working with the Workforce Development Board or other entities to look at how we can increase opportunities for training for residents in Beloit?
I didn't have it as part of my presentation, but a number of organizations are collaborating to put together an entry-level skills training program.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working with Blackhawk, we're working with the Job Center, Workforce Development, the Chamber, Greater Beloit Economic Development Corporation, and we're putting together a proposal to take back to the state to see if they would fund this program. So it's for entry-level training.
Okay. Could you keep us abreast of that
Sure.
as it proceeds? And then also, I guess one of the reasons why I pushed so hard about wanting to receive a report from you about the business retention visits is I guess I want to make sure about the nature of those visits. I guess I was assuming that as you were doing those, that you would obtain information, insights that you would bring back to us about things that we could do differently to make it easier for businesses that are here to continue to thrive, and easier, I guess I'm just saying that I would hope that if you're hearing from those retention visits, if there's specific regulatory ordinance issues or processes related to how we do business that makes it difficult for them to do business, that you would bring those to us. And we never have had that. And so it just makes me wonder, I mean, we can't be a perfect entity. I'm sure that businesses are running into issues with how we do business occasionally. So I guess I'm hoping that you'll bring those to us when those become evident.
Yes, but we have to sometimes be a little careful with the information that we do collect for confidentiality. It might be helpful also if I shared with all of you the questionnaire that we use in the pre-interview and the on-site interview, because that might give you an idea of the kind of questions we're asking and the kind of the information that we might be getting back.
That would be great. I guess the key for me is I want to avoid, we've had in the last couple of years some surprises of businesses that have folded that we had no idea that they were going to fold. Just completely a shock to us. I don't want to have that happen again. We can't afford to lose any jobs that we have here. And I'm just hoping that our retention efforts are really getting to the heart of finding out and catching what we can do to support businesses to stay here. I think that's critical. Besides, obviously we want to attract business, but we have to maintain what we have as well. So,
right.
Thank you.
And again, Beloit, Rock County is one of a few communities in the state of Wisconsin doing a formal BRE program, because we know retaining our business is a lot easier than attracting businesses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11 is reports from boards and city officers. 11A, please.
A resolution rescinding prior intergovernmental agreement regarding the casino project and approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Beloit, the County of Rock, and the Ho-Chunk Nation.
City Manager Arf, please.
Thank you, President. Pleasure to be here this evening to present to council and the community the final product of what has been in excess of a 6-month negotiating process. Has involved 5 or 6 attorneys, those working for the tribe and the city, as well as outside special counsel. This process has been in the public domain now for 2 full months, and we've received numerous questions, comments, and feedback about any number of issues that are included in the IGA, and I looked upstairs on my file cabinet. I've got a stack now about 5 inches tall of just different drafts because there have been so many of them. We feel very comfortable this evening in presenting this to you officially for your consideration. Let me begin by going back, and let's do a little history lesson, because we got some input earlier about things related to the application process. So let me go back and take a few minutes and walk us forward. The city initially got involved in what became the Beloit Casino project back in the 1999-2000 period. The first intergovernmental agreement with the Chippewa tribes was done on April 11th of 2001. Obviously, there were many renegotiations and modifications. On October 12th of 2006, Council approved another major upgrade of the intergovernmental agreement to respond to a number of comments that were made by the BIA regarding various contents of the original document. And the final extension on that, we did several more extensions because the timelines that we had in there when the IGA would remain in effect without casino approval kept running out. We had some difficulties getting those approved, so the last time we did one was in 2009, actually shortly after the application was rejected, but before the Chippewa tribes lost control of the site, and we did that one for 5 years, so it doesn't run out until 2014, and that's why there's a provision in this resolution tonight to rescind that IGA and enter into a new intergovernmental agreement with the Ho-Chunk Nation. So as we move forward, the trust application that had been submitted and reviewed by the BIA was formally rejected by the Secretary on January 13, 2009. This was done subsequent to the issuance of a new guidance memorandum by the Secretary of the Department of the Interior, and the terms in that guidance memorandum were used to reject virtually all off-reservation gaming applications that were currently pending in Washington, D.C., and that included several like this one that had actually gone through the review process and were getting close to approval, and it includes some of them that had simply filed a letter of intent and really had taken no affirmative steps to obtain a fee to trust approval. All of them were rejected. After the applications were rejected, there were some governance changes up in Odina. The Bad River Band became less actively involved in the application process. The St. Croix tribe stepped up at that point. They became the primary partner. They actually filed a lawsuit in federal court in Washington, D.C. to try to overturn the guidance memo because of the process that was used for its issuance. That went through the district court in Washington, D.C. The lawsuit failed at that level. The tribe lost their legal challenge. It went on to the appellate court, the Washington Circuit. They lost at the appellate level, and the case was dismissed. So the legal challenge to the Secretary's governance memo also failed. So the application was gone. The efforts to take legal steps to try to get a legal remedy also failed. Then the final nail in the coffin, if you will, of the Chippewa tribe's effort to get the Beloit Casino project occurred on October 29th of 2009. The contractor partner, developer partner that owned the trust site, the 32 acres on which the 26-acre trust site was located, and had optioned other properties in the city around the casino site for anticipated additional private development, was in trouble. He desperately needed to sell the site. He offered it to the Chippewa tribes. It was discussed, I know, extensively by St. Croix. I don't know how much Bad River was engaged at that point in those negotiations. The tribes felt that they could not move forward with the purchase, and they rejected his offer to sell them the casino site. On October 29th of 2009, the owner of the property at that time sold the land to the Ho-Chunk Nation. So for all practical purposes, the efforts of the Chippewa tribes to move forward with an application process came to a close at that point. Their application had been rejected. Their legal challenges to that rejection had failed, and in October they actually lost control of the site. There were some minor communications after that, primarily again with the St. Croix tribe. in the spring, I think it was, of 2011. They actually came in and visited with me and talked about trying to put together another application to move to another site. There were no affirmative steps taken, however, to implement that. The Bad River Band was not involved in that meeting or those negotiations to my knowledge. However, again, no affirmative steps were taken, and the Chippewa tribes did not try to reinvigorate or create a new application in a different location. Obviously, when the when the Ho-Chunk Nation bought the property, they approached the city and opened a dialogue with us about them doing a project and using the site. We had some intermittent meetings in, I guess, late 2010 or during 2010. A few meetings in 2011, a few phone calls. They were doing some background work and some due diligence. And in the summer of 2011, they began to open a pretty serious dialogue. I think the nation had made a decision at that point that they were actually going to go forward with the Beloit Casino project. They do have a fourth Class 3 gaming site included in their state compact. They decided, I think at that point, that it was going to be the Beloit project, and they began to carry on a more active dialogue with us. I also know, based on those communications, that they were in touch with the BIA in both Washington, D.C. and in Fort Snelling, and beginning to get together information about the application and what they would need to do to get it processed. So by fall of 2011, we opened a very serious dialogue with the Ho-Chunk Nation about redoing an intergovernmental agreement so they could move forward with their casino application project. The document that's on your agenda this evening, pardon me again, is about the 20 or 25th draft of that document. There's been extensive review. The IGA, of course, covers the basic relationship between the Native American tribe that is applying for an off-reservation casino and the local host communities. In this case, of course, that's the city of Beloit and Rock County. The document covers a number of governance issues, protects the sovereign immunity of the tribes to a certain extent on their trust lands, assuming the property is put into trust. At the same time, it provides for certain waivers of that sovereign immunity so that the city, the host community, has some ability to exercise zoning, land use, building controls, etc., to the extent that those are needed to get the project built and operational. This particular agreement covers everything from infrastructure. It envisions an additional development agreement being completed at some time in the not-too-distant future that will spell out in greater detail all of those issues related to the infrastructure off-site as well as to the physical development of the trust site as well. And those negotiations will be underway possibly in a matter of months. It also covers issues like provision of government services, makes a specific statement that the nation has made a decision to use the local city and county services to the extent practical, pardon me, and not recreate or replicate all of those services here in our community. It provides that the nation will pay the normal charges and fees that are assessed for those services except for property taxes and special assessments. By federal law, if land is taken into trust on behalf of the tribe, they do not pay property taxes or special assessments, and so we've negotiated an impact fee that provides revenue to the city. We haven't yet decided, if the project is ultimately approved and built, how all those fees would be used. There's been talk over the years about many of them going toward capital projects and capital spending in the city. Some of them certainly will go into the general fund, be part of our general purpose revenue to cover the cost of government services. But those are indicative of the issues that are covered. There's also provisions in there extensively that cover the use of the city's land use or zoning ordinances and our building and development codes, and those would all be in place until the casino is built. After the occupancy permit is issued and the facility is in place, there's some language in there that provides for a joint council that would review issues if we get to impasse on some of these things. Pardon me. And there's also an application process so that the nation can apply to the city to supplement some of their codes, because the nation has sovereign standing. They have their own ordinances and development standards, and they can apply to the city to use those or replace some of the city's codes with those, but that doesn't take place until after the basic project is built and would refer to future issues. I talked just quickly about some of the sovereign immunity issues. Those are defined in there. Certain waivers are defined. Authorizations are given for us to enforce certain codes on the trust property, as I indicated, also for city inspectors, police officers, firefighters to enter upon the trust lands for purposes of providing those services and enforcing those codes. There's also the general boilerplate language in there, the severability language, and other issues of that nature. The boilerplate language you would see in any intergovernmental agreement of this nature. Again, we've been through a lot of drafts on this. I think we've gotten through all of those things. One gentleman earlier brought up the Certiorari decision, which we're very familiar with. That was a federal court decision. The tribe already has a letter from the BIA indicating that the Ho-Chunk Nation is a successor of the Winnebago tribe, which it is, and the Winnebago tribe was recognized and in existence well before the Indian Reorganization Act, the IRA, that was passed in 1934, so that is not an issue. We've had some discussions with them regarding the state compact. There's a provision in the document that we would certainly support them moving forward with amendments to the compact that may be necessary to build the Beloit facility if it's approved, so long as they're compliant with the terms of the IGA. Pardon me. So I think the bottom line is we've covered all the issues. This is an even more comprehensive document than the original document that we had with the Chippewa tribe. I appreciate concerns that were expressed by some of the Chippewa members. I didn't see any members of your legislature here tonight. Mr. Wiggins is not here. The people that are elected to speak for the nation, they certainly have a right at any time to contact the Ho-Chunk Nation with any issues they may have or any grievances they may have regarding the project. The fact of the matter is we did give the Chippewa 110% of the city's effort for over 10 years related to, or almost 10 years related to that project. Did everything we could. In the end, the project failed. Site control was lost and the land passed to a new owner developer. And so we're here tonight recommending that we approve this IGA and move forward with the Ho-Chunk application. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Item 11A is on the agenda for approval this evening. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Haynes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lukey. Council discussion. Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I have a request and then a comment. Even if the individuals who spoke tonight are not elected officials of the Tribal Council, I do respect that you did come and share your opinions, just like I respect our residents who come. And you're on the Tribal Council, yes, is that correct? Okay. Sorry, I respect that you came and shared your opinion with us. Thank you. It doesn't matter whether you're an elected official or not. I would like to request, and I have made this request before, that just in terms of fairness, as we proceed tonight, that obviously we don't want to get in the middle of this, but that we request that there be encouragement to have fair communication between the Chippewa nations represented through the Bad River and the St. Croix and the Ho-Chunk. I would request that there would be a dialogue about fair compensation for the investments that the Chippewa have made in terms of the environmental impact study, in terms of their presence here in our city, the relationships they've built here. So I don't want to dismiss their efforts. And then also, if I can make a comment, this is personally painful for me. Most of you know I'm a social worker. I have my own personal feelings about casino investment. However, I am honoring the input received from residents that they desire that this body go forward in attempting to site a casino here in our city. I have been adamant about making sure that language is included that would broaden the scope of this project so that it would include a hotel and convention center so that it truly would represent the opportunity for tourism as a destination site. And I've been very pleased that the Ho-Chunk have agreed to include that language in the IGA. And I just wanted to acknowledge their willingness to do that and allay my concerns that they're true to their word about including that as part of the package. And so I am honoring the residents of the city of Beloit and their input. Thank you.
Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to, in some ways, echo Councilor DeForest's statement. Whatever my personal feelings and ambivalence towards casino gambling, I can tell you that my first responsibility is to listen to the voters. They send a very strong message, and everything indicates to me that they are that message would be reinforced if we were to give them that word today. And so I think it's imperative first to honor the will of the voters. And then after that, to look for the best way to make sure that we mitigate any negative consequences. And I think that this IGA does represent that. I also, feel a certain amount of regrets towards the members of the Chippewa tribes over their expenditures and the ultimate failure of their project, and I'm certainly sorry about that. However, we have to move forward. Thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Thank you. First, I want to say how much I appreciate both of the comments that have preceded this. Forgive me for reading part of a prepared statement. When I was running for the City Council a year ago, I said that I would probably support the casino project moving forward if I had the chance. Because of the prior referendum and the ongoing public support that's been mentioned, I've been leaning toward voting for it since it first came up a few months ago because of that public support, and also because I was excited to be part of something we've been waiting 12 years for. Over the past weeks and months, I've offered suggestions to make this IGA the strongest it can be for Beloit. I've also thought more about the project and gone back and forth in my head between supporting and opposing it. I've talked to a number of people and read a variety of articles, and there seem to be as many opinions on the subject as there are people. But the common theme is that a gaming facility is a mixed bag at best, and a lot depends on whether it's actually a destination casino or more of a local and regional draw. Because of this, if the project does move forward, I feel really strongly that we need to insist at the appropriate time that the proposed hotel and convention center be built concurrently with the gaming facility. I understand we'd have the chance to require that at the plan unit development stage, and I hope we would do that. Even so, I'm not as convinced as I'd like to be that this project will be good for Beloit's long-term interests. I know I'm not the only person down here who has reservations about this project. We've all felt bound to honor the public support and vote yes. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that as politically sensible as a yes vote would be, I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't expect to stop this project tonight, and I'm not necessarily trying to, but I felt like someone had to speak for those in this community who feel in good faith, as I do, that this project is, for lack of a better word, too much of a gamble, that the rewards are too elusive and the risks are too high. Someone has to be willing to express those doubts. I've listened to a variety of residents, and what I've heard you saying is that we need jobs. I've heard that loud and clear. We all know we need jobs. But I feel it's my responsibility to support jobs that will sustain and grow our community over the long term and provide a bright future for our youth. I've heard from some that this project will spark additional development and be the linchpin of Beloit's economic resurgence. I've heard from others that it will stifle the kinds of development we've attracted in recent years and heard about tonight and threaten the progress we've made. In the end, I don't feel I know which projections are right, and that's why I'm not willing to take the chance. I'm not willing to vote tonight to commit future generations to a long-term casino development that could be a burden for the community down the line. I will be as happy as anyone if this project moves forward and ends up providing a long-term benefit to Beloit. I hope that history proves my skepticism wrong. But from what I've seen and heard, I do not have enough evidence to in good conscience vote for this project tonight. I sincerely appreciate all the hard work that staff have done in negotiating this IGA, responding to my questions, and I want to acknowledge that the final IGA addressed many of my concerns and provides a strong foundation for a relationship with the Ho-Chunk Nation if this moves forward. I'm simply not convinced that this project on the whole will be good for Beloit in the long term. and I'm concerned that many of the projections that have won over public support have been too optimistic. I feel obligated to vote no. Thank you.
Councilor Van der Bogart.
A couple of points. One is a very, very minor housekeeping detail. On the second page of the resolution, at the bottom, on page 82 on our computers, I think the word governor should be capitalized and the state should be capitalized. Those are pretty minor scrivening issues. But I want to speak to City Manager Arf's assertion and comment about the efforts of the city to initially or work with the initial tribes. I know as long as I have been on the council presidents from Monahan to Dench to myself, as well as City Manager Arft, have made repeated trips to Washington, D.C. For lobbying efforts with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Secretaries of the Interior are their designees, some of the attorneys working with the tribes. We would take an early morning flight out of Milwaukee and come back late at night. And I know I've done that a couple times. I know President Dench did it a couple times. President Monahan did it a couple times. I'm not certain if President Levy's done it or not. But the effort on behalf of the city or city side of this has been consistent and great to try and help in the initial at the initial application stage. On the merits of the issue, I have some of the concerns that my fellow councilors have as well. The initial resolution, or referendum rather, 61% of our fellow Beloiters were in favor of the casino project, 39 were against. The promise at that time was, if I recall correctly, 3,000 jobs at $30,000 a job plus benefits. And that involved the greater issue of a bigger convention issue and an entertainment site as well. My concern was that might not have been what we got. My concern was that, for lack of a better way to phrase it, a double-wide trailer with a big front would go up and people would see if it became successful or not. In my discussions with the representatives from the Ho-Chunk Nation, that's not their vision, and it's included in our agreement. They want to make this a destination facility. They want to make it a big, good facility right out of the box. I think their thinking is that they're only going to get one chance to impress their visitors, and they don't want to have them leave feeling somehow that they've been less than impressed, if you want to use that phrase. Certainly it's a risk. Certainly we have no guarantee that some of the issues won't come to play in a negative fashion. On the other hand, there's no guarantee that they will. I feel that a vote in favor of this project is necessary based on my view of the need for jobs, based on the referendum, based on the information that's been generated in the IGA. I think it's a fair document. It reflects a bargained agreement between a sovereign nation and a city, and I think that's the way I should vote, so I will vote in favor of it.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. Councilor Nuno?
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Manager Arft. I thought that was an excellent description of the timeline of how things went over the last 10 years. And I think it was absolutely clear before I was on the council and since I've been on the council that the city has given 110% to try to bring this casino to fruition, working giving with the first two tribes, trying so hard to help them realize that potential dream. And since I've been on the council, as there was some movement, I know myself and others had expressed that we try to encourage the tribes to work together, and there were some efforts that were made. And I I know that at times people have tried to reach out to encourage the Ho-Chunk, I know I've mentioned it, to try to see if there's some way to appreciate the efforts of the initial two tribes. But it's not the city's responsibility to get in the way of business development in any project. I think everyone has taken a lot of time to reflect on the project as a whole. There's a great deal of history. Absolutely, one has to remember the referendum. It had a significant positive vote. There has been ample time, since the process has never fully stalled, if people had more to say. And I'm very thankful for the several public forums that we had, that people came forward, as they have again tonight. It's not always easy to do that, and I appreciate that, both for and against. It's going to be a historic vote. It's going to be, if we are able to get this passed, and it passes and gets signed by the Secretary of the Interior, it will be historic for Beloit. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Councilor Spitzer for his comments and his statements, because I think that just as a philosophical matter, it's important when there's so many different opinions on this within the community. I don't think it's necessary for our votes to be unanimous. I think it's important for people to speak their mind, and for our votes to even be split at times. And I'd like, Mark, for you to know that how much I respect your views. Thank you.
Councilor Lupke.
Yes, thank you, Mark, for being candid. So I, too, will be candid. 11 years ago, I had a sign in my yard that said, "Vote no." But over the last decade, I've studied the issue. I've talked to people. I've tried to better understand the culture of gambling in our society. And yes, there are many negative aspects I don't like about it, but I am personally very impressed with the proposal, with the location, and with the total package. We're not going to have some trailers, as Mr. Vandy Bogart said, with a few machines. It's going to be the total package. We are in an ideal location across from the Visitors Bureau. Mark, yes, it's a gamble, but I think it's one well worth it for our community. So I will be voting yes. Thank you.
Could I add one more comment, Mr. President? Just for councilors and for the community, or people that have concern or believe this is going to end up or make Beloit something like New Jersey, I would urge you to get out and about and take some road trips this spring and summer, and go out to Dubuque, Iowa, where they built the casino on the riverfront. It became part of the anchor of their complete riverfront redevelopment project. Go down to Elgin, Illinois. All they have is a riverboat down there, but go downtown in Elgin. Take a look at the new construction, the residential development that's gone in around the casino. Go out in Iowa, several of the cities out there, the smaller mid-sized cities like Beloit, have casino projects in place. Up at Baraboo and the Dells, the casino project up there. Go see for yourself. Go in, take a look at the people that are patronizing the casinos. Take a look in the town. Go down to City Hall. Talk to some of the city officials. See how many of them would like the casino to leave their communities. Okay? And if you find anyone at all that says they would be more than happy to give up the revenue, the jobs, the business activity, and they want the casino to leave their community, come back and talk to me, okay? And I'll change my position on this, I guarantee you. But I don't believe you'll find one city that will tell you they want the casino to leave.
Okay. And I just have a couple comments as well. I've been down here on the council for 10 years, so I don't know if that gives me the oldest one that's been down here. No comment? No comments? And there's two issues that have always, even before I started running for city council, there was two issues that the Beloit community was up in arms about. One, and they're still around today, one was jobs. We need jobs. Andrew could probably attest to you that they've been probably telling him that for the last at least 10 years since I've been on council. We need jobs. Where are the jobs? The other one was a casino. These are the two issues that when I was running for election 10 years ago, as people were saying, where are the jobs? How are you going to get jobs here? And when is the casino coming? From the first time it was voted on years ago, that's been the question in people's mind, when is it coming? Every public forum that we go to when we're seeking election, that question comes up, when is the casino coming? I think we're at a point now where we can see that it is headed this way. There's still a lot of things that have to be done yet, but I think it's headed in the right direction. I want to thank the staff, and I want to thank the my fellow counselors as well, because even though we're sitting here voting on this tonight, and it may seem as though that it's going to be something that we just decide to wake up and say, let's vote for it, I can guarantee everyone out there that this has been a knockdown, drag-out fight with the council and with the staff to make sure that what's in the agreement is right for Beloit. I can guarantee you that, and I'm sure staff will agree to that too. There are several times, as you heard Larry, he has several drafts in his office. That's simply because when we see something we don't like and is not good for the city, we address it, because we want to make sure that this is going to be the best decision that we have to make. When we talk about risk, anytime a new business comes to the city of Beloit, we're taking a risk. We don't know how long they're going to be here. The other question that Andrew gets is, how long are they going to be here, and how can we keep them here? So anytime a new business comes here, we don't know if they're going to be here for a year. We don't know if they're going to be here for 10 years. Anything we do in the city is a risk. But each and every time we step out on that risk, sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not, but majority of the time, they are very successful. Why? Because we do the homework. We ask the tough questions. And we have citizens come forward and say, what about this? Have you considered this? Have you thought about that? Why are you doing it this way? So what I'm saying is, between the council, the staff, and the citizens, you help us drive the tough questions. You help us develop agreements that's going to be right for the city. And you hold us accountable for that. And I don't think there's anyone down here that want to go out and face citizens when we're not held accountable. You hold us accountable, and this is what we do. I think we're headed in the right direction. I've also been out to Washington. Whatever happened before, it didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work. We're in a new day now. I think it's time to move forward, consider the positive things that can come out of this. We can find negative in anything that we want. Any new business that comes to town, we can find 100 negative reasons why it shouldn't come. Let's look at the positive things that this may bring. It will answer those two questions that I've been dealing with for 10 years. Where are the jobs, and when is it coming? This is something that the citizens want, and I think we need to move forward in that direction. I'm comfortable with the agreement that's put forward, and I think we need to move forward with this. And with that, I conclude my comments. If there's any other councilor comments or questions? Is there a motion already? Did we already?
Yes.
If not, there is a motion and a second, and at this time I would entertain a roll call vote, please, starting with Councilor DeForest.
Councilor DeForest? Aye. Councilor Haynes?
Aye.
Councilor Van de Bogart?
Aye.
Councilor Levy?
Aye.
Councilor Lupke?
Aye.
Councilor Noonan?
Aye.
Councilor Spreitzer?
Nay.
Passes 6-1. Thank you. Item 11B, please.
A resolution of the Beloit City Council in support of Beloit Class 3 gaming facility and the Ho-Chunk Nation's federal trust application.
Mr. City Manager Arf, please.
Mr. President, one of the first action steps that the IGA requires is for the local host communities to make an affirmative statement of support for the Ho-Chunk Nation's application. That's specifically what this resolution does, and would go on record. This resolution, along with the IGA, would be two of the documents that would be included in the nation's fee to trust application, which hopefully will be going into Washington within a matter of weeks after this document is approved by all of the various legislative bodies representing the parties.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Noonan, second by Vandenbogart. Are there any council questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-1. Item 11C, please.
A resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing.
Mr. York, please.
Thank you. I'll be fairly quick with this since it is a fairly routine matter, hopefully. One of the requirements the city has as part of its annual bond financing for our capital improvements is if we are in a position to need to advance funds for any of the projects that are in the CIP that we intend to borrow for using funds that we have available and on hand, and to reimburse ourselves for advancing those funds, the council has to approve the resolution that you have before you this evening declaring your intent to reimburse yourself for any funds that are potentially advanced for any of these capital improvement projects. And these are the projects that were included in the 2012 CIP for bond financing for this year. And all those have been listed here. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval, Mr. President.
Motion by Vandenbogart, second by Lukey. Councilor, questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. 11D? D, please. I already crossed it.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response SAFER grant program.
Chief Liggett, please.
Good evening, City Manager Arf, City Council. I bring before you this evening a resolution for approval for the fire department to apply for the SAFER grant. As you're well aware, the fire department reduced our staffing as a result of the budget crisis, and the Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency Grant Programs Directorate provides a grant program for staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. This is grant money that's available to us to replace the firefighters that we lost through attrition. Our grant project will probably rate very high as a way for us to restore staffing to the previous, the 2011 levels. The grant will fund all 5 positions that we lost. Receiving those 5 firefighters will help us gain compliance with NFPA 1710, the response standard that I covered in my September 26th meeting with the City Council on fire department staffing. This resolution is consistent with your council promise to restore firefighter positions as funding becomes available. Obviously, the possibility of maintaining these positions at the end of the grant period is may not be possible as a result of however the budget may play out at that time. But roughly, we have about, if we receive the grant in September of this year, we would basically have about 2.5 years with this staffing to work on budget solutions that would get us to where we could retain those firefighters at that time. So I would strongly request and recommend your approval of the resolution.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion for approval.
Motion by Lukey, second by Noonan. Councilor, questions? Councilor Vandenbogart?
Chief, why will our application rate high, and will those individuals that are hired understand that the funding might run out at the end of 2 years?
Absolutely. Our application would run high, rate high, because the grant scoring mechanisms are based on compliance. One, what type of, how the firefighters are being replaced. New firefighters, new hires, increasing staffing above what your current level is, rates lower than replacing attrited firefighters like what we are doing. Attrited firefighters are...
What? I'm sorry?
Firefighters that have been, are not retained because of attrition, okay, basically. So what happens is the grant scores those, replacing those firefighters that are no longer on the job because of attrition, rate higher than those that are new hires. And then also a firefighter that is laid off gets a higher rating than someone who's been not replaced by attrition. So we feel that we will rate high because of where we are in the scoring mechanism. When there's a self-scoring tool that came with the grant program, and we feel that we're going to rate very high in the grant program.
Thank you.
Councilor Lupke?
Thank you, Chief, and your department for applying for this grant and all the hard work. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer?
Also, thank you for applying for this and for the working with your firefighters to bring this to the front and make this possible. Fire staffing has obviously been a priority since our budget discussions, and this is a fantastic opportunity to restore that.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Nuno?
Great, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chief, and the whole department. This really couldn't be more timely for the city of Beloit and its citizens. What a lucky opportunity, if we are so lucky to get this. So I'm glad that you did the work to find the grant. Hopefully we get it so we can get back up to minimum manning so that all of our citizens can sleep well at night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. 11E, please.
A resolution amending the 2012 general operating budget and appropriating funds to restore 2 positions in the Fire Department Inspection Bureau.
Chief Liggett.
During the 2012 budget process, the City Council eliminated 3 fire inspectors from the budget with the intention that the work would be shifted to Firefighters Local 583. The city has the right to assign the work to that bargaining unit, but we did have a obligation to bargain the impact on that particular subject matter. We were not able to bring to successful resolution the impact of what that might be to the firefighting workforce, and the cost of the request from the local would be higher than it would be to bring back two of the inspectors that we would have to be able to do the work. Just a little bit of history. In 1999, Local 583 gave up this work and was negotiated out of the fire union and placed on ASME Local 2537, the workforce at City Hall. When the union did so, they lost 1 full-time equivalent, and the bargaining city team conducted our impact bargaining, and the cost-benefit analysis the numbers just didn't work out. We anticipated impact on a wage increase for the union. That was a request that they had from a bargaining perspective. Would have impacted the department of around $300,000. The net impact of bringing the fire inspections back from their layoff is about $14,666. I would recommend that the staff that approve the resolution before you and restatement of the 2 fire inspectors. There is a funding note at the bottom of your staff report that gives you a brief indication of the impact. Most of the wages and benefits for these individuals, they're part-time fire inspectors, are being paid for from savings in the unemployment costs that we would have if they filed for unemployment.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by DeForest. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Spreitzer. Any councilor questions? Councilor DeForest.
Thank you, Chief. There are originally 3 positions. Was there an individual in that 3rd position who's still being laid off, or did we lose that through attrition?
That person is still laid off. We believe that we can get the work done with the 2 that we're bringing back. We're increasing their hours a little bit, and that person is retired and it really has no interest in coming back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councilor questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. 11F, please.
A resolution adopting a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Beloit and the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, Local Number 583.
City Manager Art.
Thank you, Mr. President and councilors. Yes, we learned this morning that the local met and went through the terms and conditions of a new 2-year agreement and that the membership ratified this document this morning. We've spent quite a bit of time in collective bargaining. As you heard earlier, one of the issues we had to shift around work for fire inspections did not work out. However, several other issues that were of significant importance to the city and to the department in terms of improving operating efficiency and service delivery were successfully negotiated in a last round of negotiations, which began, I guess, about a week and a half ago, involved a very cordial, very productive meeting involving myself and the fire chief along with the officers of the collective bargaining unit, and there were some follow-up phone calls and some additional give and take, but we were able to put this agreement together. And let me quickly summarize. Obviously, councilors received a closed session briefing on this last Thursday, and they have copies of this, so they've had a chance to read through all the language issues. And there were several language modifications, but there are 3 significant components to this collective bargaining agreement that I want to quickly summarize. First of all, we have reached an agreement that must be done on a cooperative basis to allow the chief officers, there are 3 of them, 1 for each shift, and they're assigned to the 24-hour shift duty. The bargaining unit has worked with us on this issue. We've been able to come up with an agreement whereby the chief officers will do their vacation picks with the bargaining unit personnel. And I want to tell you, this is a somewhat unique hybrid relationship. Most departments and most bargaining units will not allow you to mix non-represented with represented personnel for benefit selections like this. But this is very significant for the city of Beloit because this simple little change means that the department's minimum manning will go from 13 to 14 per day on each of these shifts. And that's because the blending these vacation picks allows us to have 1 additional person on duty each of those shift days. Now, going to the 14 minimum manning is not our target. We want to go back to 15, which is where we're at, and that meets the NFPA standard that Chief talked about earlier, and we're trying to get a grant to get more people to allow us to do it. But this is significant because it means we can redeploy the 1 ambulance back over onto the west side. If this is approved tonight, tomorrow we will shift that ambulance back on the west side. The department will move from the 13 minimum manning that they've been operating under since January 1st when the new budget went into effect, go immediately to 14 minimum manning. And of course, that will remain in effect regardless of whether or not we get the grant. And as you heard earlier, the grant does not run forever. So it will be here for a couple of years. We may get a renewal, we may not, but at some point it will terminate, and we may not be able to keep all of those people. So this is very, very important in terms of minimum manning and service delivery. Second, there was an issue with some of the old contract language that gave us some concern about ability to maintain minimum staffing for the paramedic program. There was a provision in the collective bargaining agreement that employees could step down from this service, and many senior firefighters do. Being in the ambulance and doing that work for an extended number of years can wear on an individual, and many people do like to step down during the latter stages of their career. So we're somewhat concerned this year because, as you know, we cut 5 positions out of the budget. All of those through attrition. So the normal replacement cycle that would have produced new, younger paramedics to free up some of the more senior employees so they could have stepped down didn't happen this year. We were getting real close to the minimum staffing level, and the chief did have some applications pending. So one of the things we did is we sat down with the bargaining unit, put together a package of contract changes and incentives to shore up and make certain that we have adequate staffing for the paramedic program. So now when you apply to step down, you will not be able to do that until your replacement is trained and certified. Of course, most years we have adequate staffing, and we will be able to accommodate those requests from our senior employees. We also have a provision in here now that once you're certified as a paramedic, the old contract language is you served 5 years and then you are eligible to apply for a step down. Now it's 8 years. You must serve 8 years before you even become eligible. We also changed the way we calculate the paramedic pay so that it's based now, paramedic differential is based on your actual salary, not on an arbitrary standard as it was under the old agreement. There was minimal cost to the city, about $8,000, but it provides, we think, a strong incentive to encourage people to remain in the paramedic program. So that's a series, again, of contract changes and incentives that we've put in here to make sure we have manning for the ambulance program. The third major change that we did in the contract was that the employees have agreed to begin making their WRS employee contributions to the state pension plan. The contract calls for them to begin making a 3% contribution in 2012, and that will take effect probably on March the 1st. They will go to the WRS mandated employee pension contribution, which is currently 5.9% effective 1/1/13. So beginning next year, they will be fully synced up with all of the non-represented employees and the city's transit workers, who are the other bargaining unit that we've settled with. All the employees will be making their contribution. Obviously, there was some cost to this. This was not totally a one-sided contract. We got some really nice help from the bargaining unit on some of those issues, as I've articulated. We also had to make some salary concessions to make this all work. So effective on March the 1st, when we begin withholding the pension contributions, the firefighters will receive a 3% salary increase, and effective on 1/1/13, when the rest of the pension contributions come online, they will receive a 2.7% salary increase. This, or 2.75% salary increase. This is fairly close to an offset in terms of offsetting their pension contributions. These funds are in the budget, of course, because we had anticipated paying those pension contributions for 2012. So the money for the salary increase that they will be awarded is in the budget. Now, also, there are some other benefit costs associated with this that we couldn't cover out of that salary account. So the total cost of doing that salary increase is about $20,000, about $22,000 over the 10-month remaining period of the contract. I mentioned earlier the paramedic pay differential, and there's also a small stipend we put in there for fire scene investigators. There's only about 3 of those, for 1 per shift. So the total cost for the contract this year was $34,382. I have to add that's one of the lowest costs we've had from any negotiated collective bargaining agreement in a long time. On the second year of the contract, because there's some compounding of the wage increase from the first year to the second year, the total cost will be $54,000, still well below where we are with most of the contract cycles that generally include wage increases without the offsetting benefit changes that are included in this contract. I also need to quickly make and again, I noted there's some other provisions that have been rewritten. We've gone over those with council. They're mostly language issues and not worth spending a lot of time on this evening. I do have to take a quick minute to make a statement, I guess, to the other city employees, myself included, who began making their pension contributions as required by state law and did not receive any compensation offsets at all. You know, obviously there's some differential treatment here, but I must say that this is the system that we were given by the state when Act 10 was approved last year, and there was going to be some differential here, whether it was on the salary side or whether it was on the benefits side. There was going to be an approximately 6% differential either in salary or benefits provided to our public safety employees, which would be over what would be provided to the civilian workers. Again, myself included, all of us from the management employees through all the non-represented ranks, and that includes all the former AFSCME represented employees who are now represented. That's an unfortunate happenstance, but again, it's a product of the way Act 10 was structured and the way those benefit programs had to be done. And I will also tell you, we've looked at the comparables from labor settlements all across the state of Wisconsin, and they're all, almost all of them are similar to ours where they are negotiating payment of the pension contribution by their public safety employees. However, they are doing salary offsets in some way. Some of them are bigger than this one, some of them are slightly smaller, but most of the cities are doing salary offsets in order to get that concession at the bargaining table. The very first grievance that was settled on this issue was settled in favor of the union, stating that there had to be a quid pro quo or an offset to the public safety employees if they began making their pension contributions. So that's the reality of the world we live in and the circumstances we face based on the state mandates that were sent down to us this past year. I think long term and looking at this contract, I think it's fair to the employees. It was also very, very fair to the city. Again, the cost here is smaller probably than any other collective bargaining agreement we've done in modern history other than the renegotiation of the wages a couple of years ago. And it clearly shores up some operating problems in the department, allows us to increase our service delivery through the vacation pick program. So we're very pleased with this agreement. I want to extend my compliments to Local 583. We had a real good, very productive conclusion to the negotiating process. As always, we're looking forward and moving forward and working well together, as we have generally over the years. So gentlemen, thank you all, and ladies, for your cooperation in making this possible. Now, if councilors have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those at this time.
Can I get a motion for approval before we?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Noonan, second by Lupke. Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. Manager Arft, you mentioned language changes. Have there been any language changes since what we've seen in our closed session?
No, the draft I gave you tonight is virtually identical to what you saw on Thursday evening. I don't believe there were any last-minute changes in any of that language. The military leave provisions were put in. You saw the investigator incentive. The maintenance of effort language is tied to staffing levels. It's not a hard mandate on minimum manning. The hire back procedures and stuff, all of that was in that language.
Okay, thank you. And I would just like to make a comment. I am ecstatic that we're going to be able to put the ambulance back on the west side. That was quite disturbing to me, and I'm ecstatic that we're getting to 14, and we can't stop there. We need to get to 15. Thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
I wanted to echo Councilor DeForest's comments and wanted to thank everyone who was involved in this process. The staff, both management and members of the union, for getting us to this point. I think everyone was able to come together and find something that I see as a win-win for the city, for residents, for firefighters, and able to restore staffing levels and get a mutual agreement that we were all able to come to. So I am very pleased to be able to vote for this tonight, and I think it should serve as a model going forward of being able to come together and resolve our differences and do something that works for the city.
Councilor Nuno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to thank Local 583 for their vote earlier, as well as the local and the city staff for working so hard for these many months now. I, too, am just so thankful that we're going to be able to restore full service for the ambulance on the west side. That has been very nerve-wracking during this time, and I'm very, very happy that we've been able to find a way to make that happen. These are historically difficult economic times, and without the sacrifice of these city employees and others that have, there's no way as a corporation, as a team, that we would be able to realize the needs of our citizens without the sacrifice of everyone. And so I thank you very much for helping make this complete and bring our department whole. It was, like Councilor Spreitzer said, it was a challenging negotiation, and I'm glad, very glad that in the end, everyone has kind of come together. I think that I hope that you're hearing from everyone in the city how much we do appreciate your service and sacrifice to the city. It is greatly appreciated, and I look forward to moving forward. Thank you.
Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to remind the public, too, that as the city manager said, that the additional pay to to the firefighters is essentially budget neutral because they're giving up their contribution to the pension fund. The additional amounts are going to be able to be made up within the existing appropriation. So this won't require us to dig into any fund balances or expend any additional funds over what was budgeted in the fall. So.
Councilor Van der Bogart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I would echo the comments of my fellow councilors. I am glad we've reached an agreement. It's, I believe, a fair agreement. However, it does raise the issue that I've addressed with Representatives Evan Wynn, Amy Loudenbeck, Senator Cullen, Ms. Ringhans. The disseparate treatment of municipal employees is not a sustainable sort of concept. And by the act of amending, or rather exempting public safety individuals from the state, at the state level, creates a monster at the municipal level. And I'm not certain how it's going to get resolved as we go forward. This is resolved with the firefighters, and I'm glad that it is. But they have created a system where the efforts of one group are valued more and exempted more with collective bargaining protection than the efforts of others. And that is not, in my view, a fair and or sustainable way to run a municipal corporation. But I will vote in favor of this. I think it's a good agreement.
Anyone else? Seeing none, just a couple comments from me. I would like to thank the negotiation teams on both sides, city staff, and also Local 583. And I also like to thank all the employees of the city, because truly they were all affected in this budget process. I also want to really thank my colleagues on the council. You've heard me say this a couple times tonight, that meeting with the negotiation team and city staff, I know for a fact they walked out of that room and wondered, what are those guys thinking? We put a charge to them when we passed the budget that simply said, we're going to pass this budget, but if you find any extra money, we want to restore these positions back, because that's how important they are. However, we just didn't allow them to come back and say, oh, we found extra money, we're going to do it. The questions began, where? How are we going to make it last more than a year? How is it going to go past 2 years? So there were a lot of back and forth conversations with staff and with council, and they weren't the easy conversations. I can guarantee you that. I think most of you who know the 7 of us down here now, that there's no easy questions, I think, that we present. But I want to thank everyone for their hard work on this. I think it's a win for the entire city, and I think if we, as I mentioned before, find the positive in everything, that, as Councilor DeFore said, this helps keep the city safe. We value the job that these men and women do. I'm sure the citizens do the same. Sometimes as councilors, we have to make tough decisions that may not be popular to everybody, but it's a decision that we have to make, and we have to own up to it. But rest assured, speaking to the citizens, that this is a good deal. This is something that was well thought out. I think both sides did an outstanding job of coming to the table and giving a little. Both sides are giving a little and saying, that shows the dedication of the employees, that when they come forward and say, you know what, here's what we can do for the city as well. I don't want people to think, and I'm just going to say it, no one's told me, but I don't want people to feel that we're caving in to the firefighters, or we're caving into one group. We're down here trying to make the best decision possible for the citizens. And we've all said, all 7 of us have said during the budget process, when it comes to citizen safety, that's something that we take very seriously. We take everything in the city very valuable, but when it comes to safety, we really look at that, and we try to make sure that citizens are protected. So I'm glad. I can't express enough the gratitude that I have for both sides for coming down, sitting down at the table and working this out. This is not the end. I can guarantee you that. if things do not get better, this will not be the end. And I think both sides know that. And I want to thank the chief especially, because I know he got it from both sides. So I want to really thank him for being able to walk into our meetings and having to probably go back and meet with them. And so I wanted to make sure we understood that. But this is not the end. So I want everybody now to start thinking outside of the box, that in 4 years from now, we're in the exact same spot where we are now. The question at that time, once again, will be, what do we do? That's the end of my comments. Any other councilor comments or questions? Councilor DeForest.
If I could just add, I don't want to wait 4 years. Yeah,
I know. I'm just
I don't want to
saying.
wait 2 years even. I want to get back to 15, and we'll see what pans out with the grant. But the city will be safer at 15. Thank you.
The 4 years was just an example, Councilor DeForest. We're not going to, it is 25 minutes to 10. We are not going to go down this road, me and you. We can take this offline. There's been a motion and a second. At this time, I'll entertain a roll call, starting with Councilor Spreitzer, please.
Spreitzer?
Aye.
Newnham?
Aye.
Lupke?
Aye.
Levy?
Aye.
Vanden Bogaert?
Aye.
Haynes?
Aye.
DeForest?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Item 12, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, I move to adjourn.
Motion by DeForest. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Spreitzer. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.